Real estate investing is a very hot topic that you've probably heard all over social media, and there are multiple ways for you to get started. And in today's video, I'm going to go over a number of those strategies, starting with the lowest amount and potentially no money out of your pocket to the most amount of money out of your pocket that is still achievable for a beginner. What's up guys, my name's Avery. I love investing in real estate and I own over now $3.5 million worth of real estate. I own some Airbnbs and I own some long-term rentals. So I feel like I have a good understanding of different types of strategies and deals that you could get under contract for yourself in 2023 as a beginner. So we're just gonna hop right into it. But before we do that, I'd really appreciate it if you would scroll down and make that thumbs up button blue. The first option that can take absolutely zero money, or maybe a little bit, just the cost of driving around or buying someone coffee, would be helping other investors find deals. Now this can work really well in an expensive city or non-expensive city, and if you don't have very much money. Essentially, you can help other investors find deals because they don't have enough time. Investors are always looking to buy more and more because cash isn't necessarily their issue. They are looking for property. So if you help solve that problem for them, they can give you some equity in return. So this can work well if you're direct mailing, cold calling, marketing, or potentially just finding deals for them on the market because you have a real estate agent that you like, and then you can bring that deal to that investor, show them why it could make sense, and then they bring the money, they bring their expertise of construction, and potentially you help them along the way with construction management, asset management, and you're learning concurrently with them. And in return, they can give you roughly 5 to 10% of a deal, and you've put absolutely no money into it, but you have put a lot of time into it, although you are also going to get a bunch of free education while getting paid a little bit to learn from this person who's done it a lot. So the question begs, how are you actually going to meet these people? There are a number of different ways. 3 places that I think you could look. The first being Facebook groups. If you go look up real estate investing and type the town that you're in, there are a ton of real estate investing groups and you can just find people and don't just say, hey, who's gonna mentor me? Just look to see who's posting in there a lot, reach out to them and see how you could help them and maybe offer solutions on how you could help them. The second thing that you could do is go to real estate investing meetups. Meetup.com is a fantastic place to do this. I used to host my own meetup, I no longer do. But if you go on meetup.com, same way you did with the Facebook group, and just look up real estate investing and the location you're in, there more likely is a networking event that you could go to. The third thing that you could do would be go on biggerpockets.com. BiggerPockets, if you haven't heard of it, is like the social media site for real estate investors. So you could go on there, again, look up your area, see who's posting a lot, and just go reach out to them and see how you could help them find more deals. The next strategy that you could utilize in order to make some money as a beginner would be wholesaling. Wholesaling is a great strategy that can allow you to make some quick assignment fees so you can build up your cash reserves so you can then buy your first rental or continue to do wholesaling and keep making those assignment fees. But essentially it works that you get a property under contract at a discount or at a discount enough that it makes sense so that you could assign that contract to another investor for a fee. So let's say there's a $100,000 property. You were able to get it under contract because you're a smooth salesman or salesperson for $60,000, and then you assign that contract to an investor who's actually going to put in the money and do all of the work for $80,000. Now this investor has won because they have a $100,000 property for 80 grand, and you've won because you've made $20,000 just getting a place and doing the hard work of getting a property under contract and then giving it to those investors. And similar to the first option, how are you going to find those investors? The best way are through Facebook groups, BiggerPockets, or meetup.com, meeting a lot of these people. I personally am not someone who does wholesaling, but if you want to learn more about the specific strategy, Wealth to Millions or King Kong is a great place to go check that out. I'll put it in the description below. And also, if you follow me on Instagram and send me a DM, I'll send you a free contract that you could utilize in order to actually be able to get that assignment fee, get that property under contract, and then get it to an investor. The third option that I'm going to talk about would be house hacking. And house hacking is how I got my start and how many other investors got their start as well. House hacking is by far the best way, in my opinion, to get started in investing in real estate with a low barrier of entry with cost and making it a lot easier to do property management because you are going to live in the property yourself for at least 1 year. And it goes as following. Essentially, you will just buy a property with a low money down payment, owner occupied type loan, like an FHA loan, a VA loan, usually between 0 and 5% down, with FHA being the most standard at 3.5% down. And once you do that, you move into the property and then you rent out all of the excess space. So this is how I started with my duplex, and I just moved into one of the units and I rented out the other unit, plus rented out one of the other bedrooms, and my girlfriend lived with me, and this completely covered my mortgage and a couple of the utility expenses, so I was no longer paying my $1,100 a month in rent that I used to, and now living for free and able to start saving way more money so I could invest in more real estate, which is exactly what I did by buying another property 1 year later. House hacking is awesome because it gives you that ownership, it gives you a lot of the benefits of owning real estate, plus it is a lower cost of entry. So I bought a $525,000 duplex, and my down payment was $18,000 something dollars, plus a little bit of closing costs because I also got the seller to pay for a lot of those closing costs. And it's really easy to manage because you are right there. You can make it so that it's not as stressful, especially when you're starting out. Obviously, you want to create some systems, make management a lot more automated, but it can just make you feel a lot better by living there and not having the stressors of how am I going to get that thing fixed? If I need to go to the property, is it an hour away? Is it on the other side of the country? These things you don't have to worry about when you're house hacking, at least for the first year, and then you can build up how to figure out what systems do I need in place so I can make this more automated. The next strategy that I'm going to talk about on a whole is Airbnb. Airbnb is really popular right now, and there are 3 different options that I'm going to talk about with Airbnb, and some of them you need no money to start out, and some of them you need a lot of money to start out. The first option with Airbnb that requires very little money, but potentially you want to pay for a course so you can seem more certified in property management, would be co-hosting. Now, co-hosting is just some fancy term for property management in Airbnb. Essentially, you can help someone who is a host actually host their property for them. Usually this comes between a 15 and 25% management fee, so you receive between 15 to 25% of gross revenue that the property earns every month. Now, if you're starting out, you're probably going to take the lower number at 15% because you may not have the same amount of credibility. But again, if you potentially take a course or you talk to someone who's done it before and seem more credible, then you're actually able to get some of these properties and get some of these owners to trust you. Airbnb management is pretty simple. You can automate a lot of things with something like Guesty for Host, Hospitable. You can automate pricing with Price Labs. You just need to have various people out there who can help do it for you, and you can do it completely remotely as long as you have a handyman, someone also a separate person known as a runner that can get you things like toilet paper, and you need to have good cleaners. Once you have all of those things set up and you're more than capable of using a phone in the Airbnb app to answer people, then things are going to go pretty smoothly for you. This one is also great because you don't buy the property, you don't have to buy a bunch of furniture, and if the host that you're co-hosting with doesn't end up liking you, you can get out of it pretty easily without having a bunch of money in the deal or the property. The one drawback with this one is you aren't earning any more equity. It's a good way to give yourself some more cash flow, but I wouldn't say this helps you achieve financial freedom because you're just giving yourself a job. A lot of people say that Airbnb is like 3 to 5 hours a week of management. It can be a lot more. It's way more effort than a long-term rental, in my opinion. I would prefer a long-term rental every single time, especially if you're not the owner and getting a lot of the benefits that are associated with Airbnb or real estate. If you can be an owner and you make a ton of cash flow, plus your property is appreciating, then it can start to make a lot more sense with the amount of time that you're putting in. The next option that is also very popular would be known as Airbnb arbitrage. I actually don't love this option, but it's very popular, so I just wanted to talk about it. Airbnb arbitrage is very simple. You rent an apartment from a landlord and then you also rent it again on Airbnb. So you currently are the person who is leasing the apartment and then you sublease it through Airbnb, hopefully making more money than the amount of rent and expenses that you have to pay. The reason why I don't love this specific type of investing is because, similar to co-hosting, one, you're only getting cash flow. You're not getting a lot of those benefits that are associated with real estate. The other reason I don't love it is because sometimes a landlord doesn't want to renew your lease, and now you've bought $15,000 or $10,000 worth of furniture, and what are you going to do with it? Furniture is very much not an appreciating asset. Potentially you can move into another property and do another Airbnb arbitrage to move that furniture, but that might not always be the case. You might have to sell all the furniture and at a loss, after only being in that apartment and making some money from it for a year. Now, this can be a great strategy for you to get some cash flow, but again, you're missing out on appreciation, being able to pull equity out of your property, being able to have depreciation and deductions like those tax benefits, and all the other great things associated with real estate, which is why I think from the long-term game, owning property is going to be your best bet. But if you're a beginner and you just want to build up cash flow so you can get to that ownership part, this could potentially be a good option. And the last option with Airbnb would actually be buying one, and this can be very expensive. You can do a second home loan at 10% down or an investment loan at 20% down, and I think roughly you need somewhere between like $70,000 to $100,000 to actually get a profitable Airbnb up and running. And for a beginner, for certain people, that might sound like a lot of money, especially when I was starting out and I had my $18,000 down payment. That was a lot of money. But the Airbnb that I set up earlier this year, I spent a bit over $100,000 turning that from a pretty ugly house with a bunch of red carpet and then completely renovating it, adding luxury furniture, and making it a place that a lot of people wanted to stay that now earns pretty decent cash flow. Personally, I prefer this option just because, like I said, you get way more of the benefits associated with real estate. I renovated that property, so I bought it for $405,000, put $50,000 of renovations in. It's now worth somewhere in the low fives to mid fives, let's just say $525 to be able to sell it. Plus, I get principal pay down every month from paying the mortgage. I receive cash flow. I get a bunch of deductions from buying the furniture, supplies, and all of that other good stuff. The property depreciates from a tax perspective, so I can put that against some of my income. And I have a lot of control over the asset and being able to do what I want to do with it. In my opinion, these are the most popular and probably the best ways for you to actually get into a property. And for me, my number one advice is always to do a house hack. I think that is the best way for you to get started investing in real estate. And if you want to learn more about house hacking and potentially get mentorship and a course from yours truly, and I have an awesome growing mentorship group all about buying your first rental property, click the link in the description below and you can book a call with me and I can figure out if I can help you buy that first rental property via house hacking or potentially in a different way. And if you guys like that video, again, please scroll down and make that thumbs up button blue. I'd really appreciate it. And comment down below what type of real estate investing strategy that you want to get started with or that you want to continue with in 2023. And if you guys like that video and want to learn more about investing in real estate, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And also don't forget to follow me on TikTok as well as Instagram, where I make a lot of similar content but in short form. So thanks again for watching, and more wealth is coming your way.